Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the West Bend Community Memorial Library Board for Tuesday, May 18th. May we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Close. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like to ask for an approval of the agenda, please. Motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Jess?
I'll second the motion.
Karen? All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I would like to ask for a motion for the consent agenda approving the library board regular meeting minutes from April 20th and also the library expenditures from April 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and approved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Election of officers. We have positions for president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. Joseph is not here tonight, but I did speak with him, and he would be open to being treasurer for another year. So I'll just throw that out. So may I have anyone, is there anyone interested in being president? Okay. I will do that if someone will make a motion.
I nominate Deb Bartnikowski for president of the West Bend Library Board.
Thank
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Jesse has been the vice president. Are you still interested in that?
Sure, I won't put the burden on anybody.
Is there anyone else who would like to apply for the vice presidency or be nominated? Oh, I know, they're all just standing in line for these positions. May I have a motion to approve Jesse Tomasi?
You got it. Yep.
Okay, as the vice president of the West Bend Library Board.
I'll make a motion to,
Josh, thank you. May we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Financial secretary, again, Joseph isn't here, but he did say he would take the position if nominated and approved. So is anyone else interested in the position of financial secretary? May I have a motion to approve Joseph Legate as financial secretary?
I make the motion to approve Joseph
Okay.
Liggett.
May I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now we need secretary. Yes. Are you up to,
Yeah, I'll take another year.
unless someone really wants the position, we will, Brett? All right.
Karen, I know you're missing it.
Oh, right. No, after 6 years, no.
We have, I'd like to have a motion to approve Cindy Warnier for secretary.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And just as an FYI, we can't just say keep the people in place. We tried that once and we were chastised saying you have to do it individually, so. Okay. All righty, moving on, financial reports. If you would take a look, let's see, we all just kind of saw this. From a standpoint, I don't think there were any, the only check that was written last month was the check for the insurance to bond Joseph, and that was for the $234. Now, that is for the lesser. We are asking the insurance company to change the dollar amount up to what Joseph has control of. They will send us an additional bill for that amount, but otherwise we can, but we paid the first payment. And of course, as Joseph always says, we had $1.59 interest. I think it went down 5 cents from last month. Are there any questions? Basically, we're going to talk about a little bit about this when we get into our education section. So, balances. I think that's it for financial reports. Public comment? Okay. Library director's report.
I sent my report yesterday with all the information. One of the things I want to note is that I did provide the job descriptions for your review. If you have any concerns, please note those to me. We would be looking to start filling library associate 2s soon in place of the young adult librarian that we lost recently with Hannah. So Hannah has moved on to her new home in North Shore Library this week, and she went right from West Bend to North Shore, and I haven't talked to her since. But we will need some bodies in place to make things go. Our numbers are relatively limited overall, so. The Library Associate 2 was reviewed with Brad, myself, and Emily. And that seems like a good fit for moving on to programming in the future. So.
And one of the things Steve has done is he's talked to the librarians, and at this point, they're going to be utilizing a Library 2 category in place of a Master of Science library. So the work that Hannah had done is being absorbed and agreed to by other Master of Library Science people, okay? So we felt that instead of replacing the higher category, we
Right.
could get several Library Category 2 people out of this.
Yeah, in my
Steve did a good job of analyzing.
In my report, you'll see that actually, I think in tonight's notes or whatever, when I talked to Brad last time, the difference is we get 1.5 people at part-time for the 1 full-time position, essentially for the same dollar amount. We're understaffed based on our size and to begin with, so our total number of full-time equivalents right now is, I believe, around 19, and to be in the ballpark with other libraries of our size, we're closer to 25. It's unique that we have these 2 levels that we have to staff and the large library. So we're going to try to work towards that in the future to get the numbers of bodies up, not the numbers of bodies up. Yeah, I guess that is true. The numbers of bodies up, so that we can serve the people of the community better. As we analyzed how we hit the marks and compared to other libraries, the one place that we were very heavy in was the master degree librarians. So our size library, we determined the average or the range was probably between 6 and 8 master degree librarians, and we're at 11 right now. So for a library that struggles with having enough financial support to make it go, it's really looks to me like a bad investment to put it all at the top there. So we want to make sure that the bodies are there to serve the people right away. That's where we're going with this plan.
Yeah, and like I said, Steve has done a good analysis. It wasn't for this board meeting. It'll probably come in a later board meeting, and it'll do a more in-depth presentation. But if anybody has any questions for Steve, just give him a call. He's raring to answer questions to each of you individually, and I think that would be a good opportunity for you to interact with Steve one-on-one.
Can I just send you an email?
You can send an email. I guess the other things to note that I was going to add today We did have the walk-in vaccine clinic. Last I checked, they had 10 people, so that was very good for them. They said Quick Trip had more people applying for jobs, but at least there's people that are taking advantage of that vaccine clinic. And we did install the artwork from the high school students, and it looks pretty darn great. So if you get a chance, swing by the library and take a look at on the adults south wall as all the artwork from the students. So it's really wonderful.
Steve, we didn't know about, I take it this was a quick turnaround for Hannah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she gave 2-week notice, and Friday was her last day.
And I see from your report that we tried to counter.
We did, and that's not our habit, but we did in this case, and
Yeah.
she wanted to go to bigger things, and she had multiple reasons. It wasn't just money.
Got it. Well, I would definitely like to thank Hannah for her service for our library. She did a great job, and I'm sad to see her go, but wish her the best.
Yeah, she is one of the best. I always say the best young adult librarian I've met. So
Yeah.
Anything else for Steve? No? Okay, if not, we will move on to the library board president's report. And basically, you just stole my thunder, because I was planning on thanking Hannah, and I want to say, Hannah sent me a wonderful letter thanking us for, supporting her and everything. So we left on she left the library on very good terms. It was just an opportunity she was looking for, and it was something we didn't have the ability to provide her.
Okay.
And didn't you mention that she was going to stay connected through the Friends group and other?
she plans to stick with
Activity.
the Friends, so that's kind of a nice bonus for us. And who knows, she might run for city council someday.
Right.
She's still living in.
She's in Ward 2, I think. She lives in the library district.
Yes.
And she walks to work now, but will not be able to walk to North Shore, so it's going to be a change.
I'm just kidding. I don't think she has any interest in politics that way. So.
Okay. Any questions for me on anything? If not, we will move to old business, but doesn't look like we have any old business. We just cleaned everything up. Oh, man, we are so good.
Good job, Steve.
Thanks.
New business, self-checks. Before we do this, I guess I'd like to just make a couple comments, and I think I probably should have talked about this in regards to the finance reports. Remember last month I was talking about carryover funds, and we'll get into that when we talk about what, in the trustee education, the report from Carrie from the audit, that there was money there from the audit. The audit showed that we have like 11,000 for carryover, but as Steve and I were going through things, and then we did meet with Carrie and Jay, there was money that was carried over in our budget, and if you go back to the financial report from, you don't have it now, but the one from December and January, when you look at the December report, we ended up the year with 111,000 in the city fund, Fund 21. When we move into January is where we get the tax levy from the city, which is 740,000. We had in that account 804,000. So there was an additional 65,000 that we have that could move into fund balance, but Steve is going to talk and address a few things regarding that money. And then as we get down, we will have to make a determination, but it'll be next month to the exact dollar amount we need to move into fund balances. One of the other things we did see that I caught, and I didn't catch it last year, is, and I think it may have been due to the COVID and everything, we never looked last year at the fund balance and moved money. It just stayed right in the Fund 21 dollar amount for that year. We will have to, going forward, probably put it on our schedule that when the audit comes through, we really need to look at the money that needs to be moved from the active account into the library trustees fund account.
Did we, I'm reaching back in my brain here. When we were trying to do I think it was with the budget, and we held off, I believe, on a decision because Chris Jenkins said that we would know, I think in April, how much money we were going to have for the strategic planning committee. Do you recall anything like that?
Basically, what he was saying is that in April, when the audit comes through, which it did in late April,
Okay.
it'll show us how much money we had left over that we then could take and move into our fund balances, whether it be strategic or one of the other funds that we have, the emergency fund or the IT fund.
Because I just remember the conversation being about materials, and I'm all about materials.
Yes, we are.
More books,
Yes.
right?
And that is one of the things that we would be looking into. See, the thing is, when the money comes in from the taxpayers, they are expecting us to use that for that year. And if we have a carryover, it's fine to build up an emergency fund, but we are sitting on funds. So we really should look at that money and say, what do we need that we have this money, we should utilize it for the library, for various projects and materials. And that has always been the big one.
Yeah, when do we review that?
That'll be, actually, it'll be next month, because then we'll have the exact, well, we kind of have the exact amount now, but I don't have it on the agenda.
Okay, that's okay. And then Steve, do we, I don't know if we reconvene the strategic planning committee to go over like where we're at in meeting our goals?
We can do that.
That would be separate, we're
Yeah.
the
Right.
planning committee. Steve actually is, and I'm jumping in, but he's actually starting to do a much heavier analysis on strategic things. He has been looking at a lot of capital things that need to be done, because there are some things, and I don't want to go into that now, because that's not on this agenda.
Sure.
But he has been working on that. So it probably would be a good thing when you're working on that or come up with things, is maybe to call a strategic committee and then
Yeah.
plot it from there.
Yeah, I'm
that's
just
good.
curious as to where we're at with meeting our goals, so.
Okay.
Good.
Deb or Steve, will we find out where that carryover money comes from? So this is 2 years now in a row where
Well,
we've
the
had
second
carryover
year-
money?
We aren't going to be able to go back to get the carryover. The year before, it was like 40,000.
Not to go get it, but to know where it came from. So for budgeting purposes, if it's consistently $15,000 and it comes out of said line item every single year, we know we have potential issue in where we're budgeting our money up front. So as that comes back from the auditor, it'd be nice to know where the overage, where we were under budgeted sometimes.
The auditors don't go into that in-depth level. They
But I would
really
think our
do
city,
not.
the city should be able to
But-
tell us our budgeted to actuals at the end of the year. We should be able to see
But
that in a
not-
report.
Not by accounts. That's what I'm going to talk to you. The report that Carrie sends, and the report that Carrie sends just has it as a lump sum revenue versus expense. Steve may be able to do that, though.
Yeah, I could look at that, but it's probably going to change from year to year. Most of our contracts and such are fixed. I mean, not they're your regular contracts. We're going to always have our elevator, our they all escape
Snow
me right now. Snow
removal.
removal, that kind of thing. That's going to be pretty standard from year to year. The thing that changes most in the library, unless we spend more on materials than what we had budgeted or less on materials than we had budgeted, that would affect us. Last year was a unique situation for sure, because we didn't have the opportunity for some things that we typically would have done when the library was closed for those 2 months. But typically when you're under budget, it's because somebody has left the library and it took a while to fill that position. So we don't want to reduce our personnel line because our budget consistently is low, because we may have a year when they all are there through the whole year, and then we'd be shooting ourselves in the foot as far as personnel goes. That's typically what I've seen in my past experiences. We've
From
we
last
don't
year.
change other things.
From last year, one of the big ones was Amy left in October. We did not pay hers. We didn't have, after she left, we didn't pay her. Gee.
Well, I
But-
think part of it is it staffing, is it insurance, is it contracts? I'm
Yeah.
guessing in a budget our size, it's going to be predominantly that staffing line item and those types of things. But I think it's one of those ways to double check that we're either over budgeting or under budgeting over years in certain areas.
And
Because I don't
think
want to get
that's
to the end of the
good.
year and find out, well, the last 3 years we've left $5,000 on the table for books or whatever the story is, if we're not really looking at least a clump of the line items at that point.
The important thing to know is whatever the city and appropriates for the library board, it stays in the library board's control. They don't take it back. It's ours to do what we want with. And I guess Deb was
That'll
gonna
get
talk-
into our discussion later, but you're right, and I think it is a good way. And now that Steve has really, he's been starting to take hold of looking at the finances, and I won't say what he's done, he will present that, but he has really looked at things and presented to me some of the stuff that I'm very happy he's analyzing. We're looking at things from a monetary standpoint where we can move and where we can do that, so, but that'll be at our next board meeting, or the one after that, depending on how fast you can get all that stuff done.
I think we'll be ready for a lot of it by the next time.
Good, okay. Okay, sorry about that,
So we were
but I wanted to
self-
cover some of the finances, so we're on self-check.
self-checks. So I gave you two numbers. I didn't make a recommendation. I was advised. It's one or the other for us, and we're in the process of testing the software. You don't have to make a decision tonight on this. It's one organization or the other that we're looking at. And as far as providing the self-checks to us. So it won't be more than the highest one, which was, I think, I don't have it in front of me, to be honest
One
with
was
you.
34, and the other was
7.
20.
Yeah. It won't be higher than that, but so it'll be one or the other. If we put it off, it could slow the timeline down of ordering and getting the equipment installed. My ideal would be to have it ready to go by September, when school starts back up and we have a resurgence of use of the library, and that would be a great time for us. But we can put it off, and I really don't know what the timeline is. I know that both companies said that they're ready to ship within, I'm going to have to look at Brad. Do you remember? It wasn't that long. A couple months is what they looked at, I think, 2-3 months to ship the product to us. Of course, they do have chips in them of some sort. I don't know what that is. So that could change the inventory that they have on hand pretty rapidly. So I'd guess my recommendation would be to approve the higher dollar amount, knowing full well that we may get a lower dollar amount might be the best choice for us. And that would be based on Brad finishing the software review.
Is there a big difference between the two as far as what they're capable of doing or what is needed? Because I mean, obviously, it's about 80% more.
Yeah, they seem very comparable in many regards. I will say that the higher dollar one was, if it works for us, and that's not a for sure yet because we haven't tested the software in that regard yet. If it works for us, it is a American-built, engineered, and designed product. The other one, I can't say that for sure. I know it's an American company, but
Envisionware. And then my other question, and that, just to clarify, that was for 4 total units, correct? To replace the 2 that we have and then to get 2 additional.
right. And we would have 3 on the first level and 1 upstairs so that people could check out up there.
All right, thank you.
And if this would be approved, since I had stated we have about $76,000 from last year's budget, I would recommend that we take it out of that budget and not move that into a fund balance. So it would have been money that had been accumulated from the 2020 budget. So that would be where I would say we would look to pull that money from. So it isn't going to be taking it out of the current year budget. It would be in addition to. Tim?
Must read my mind, like I was thinking. So I'm very similar to the question you asked. I mean, there's a $14,000 difference,
Yeah.
and I would assume there's some sort of grid process to evaluate these two that would really, if we recommend either or we approve the dollar amount, and any of us or anybody in the community come back and says, you spent $14,000 more, what do I get for it? I think that's going to be the biggest thing. I mean, that's a pretty big spread when you're talking about technology and again, it could be usability, it could be software, it could be a lot of different things. I don't have every detail in the world about self-checkout. I trust that you guys would make the right decision. This is one where there's a big swing in dollars, and that gives me some red flags on the lower price product or the higher price product, depending upon which way you look at it. I mean, it's really hard to say without the details in that.
Yeah. I can say they're very comparable as far as their experience goes. The thing is it going to work for our system? And the lower dollar value number is what we're looking at right now. We evaluated 4 companies, and they were all in the higher dollar number ballpark anyway. So to come down to these 2 is, either it's going to work at the lower value with the EnvisionWare product, or if it doesn't work with the EnvisionWare product, then we look at the TechLogic product.
Are you able to proof of concept this
Yes.
through the software and or getting hardware on site?
We have a software demo halfway installed already for EnvisionWare, so tomorrow we expect that they'll be finishing that up.
Okay.
And Brad's been working on that pretty hard, and he's been digging into it up to his elbows anyway, and having fun talking to the different reps and questioning them. We were really in depth with this review of these companies, so more than I've done in the past with self-checks. So it was kind of interesting. But the quality seems about the same, except for the whole made in the USA thing, and I'm a big made in the USA guy in my personal life, but in public funds, we have to make the good choice, and that is a big dollar amount difference. So.
Steve, I have 2 questions. One is, besides our library board using this technology, what other groups do you anticipate using this?
Oh, that's the video conferencing project?
Yeah.
Oh, we're not on that yet.
Oh,
We're
I'm
still on
sorry.
the self-checks.
We're still I'm sorry.
But it's a good question, so
Okay.
we won't get that.
We'll get on that.
You're looking for a motion. There are several things we could do. We could make a motion that they continue forward thinking we will do one of these, but we wouldn't give them the authority to, we could wait until next month to actually do the dollar amount. But I think, if nothing else, I would like to at least give Brad and Steve the ability to move forward looking at this technology. So again, how does the board, Joanne?
Right, yeah, I guess I would like to leave the choice up to staff. I mean, after all the work that they've already done, and so I think they've done a lot of due diligence already. And so I would like to leave the choice up to them between the 2 options on the table. And rather than hold it up anymore, I guess I would like to make a motion to authorize the expenditure for no more than the higher amount, and trust them to do their job to make the best choice.
Exactly.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just want to add that I think that's a really good idea, and in the event that they come to a decision before we would meet next month, especially with all the shortages going on, this won't hold it up. You know, if we wait a month to decide on it and then they have to order, that could really change the time frame of being able to get the equipment. So
I agree with the 2 to 3 month lead time possibly.
Yeah.
That you want to have it before school starts, so,
Yeah.
Oh, you picked that up.
yes.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries for self-check. Now, we will move on to boardroom video conferencing project. If you want to speak to it, and then we'll have Jesse question.
Perfect.
I won't answer that question, then I'll wait for her to ask it. Yeah, so one of the outcomes of COVID is we found ourselves having meetings where we are doing virtual visits from outside the group or inside the group in the past. And some of our board members have been in on the Friends meetings. They don't go very well when you're working off of a laptop in the center of the room. The sound is just not great. The connectivity is not great. I imagine that we can use this for our board meetings if we should ever have a case where somebody needs to remote in, or if we are all going to remote in, at least there'll be one central meeting room that we can work from with a smaller group of people or whatever the case might be if we're ever in this situation again. I also think this is going to be very useful. I'll wait. I won't answer that one. So when I had the building guys look at some of our options, they're going to bring a couple other projects to us, but this was one that I said it'd be nice to have AV conferencing here in this boardroom, and it seemed to fit nicely. Now I'll wait for questions.
So Steve, who besides the library board would use this?
Great question.
For one, I think the Friends would benefit greatly from this because it is often that we have a remote guest. One of the Friends members come in remotely. I don't know what Hannah's new schedule is going to be, but maybe she'll be attending remotely. Maybe she'll be attending in person. Who knows? But it also, I can see that other groups in our community who use the library already for meeting rooms, or who don't have these capabilities to meet nicely in a mixed setting like this, would look for this kind of resource. So I think we could have a lot more groups using this than just the library. The neat thing about this project, and I didn't write it all up, is it is plug and play. So you plug in your device and it starts everything up. You unplug your device and everything shuts down. BSI will provide support for the first few meetings that we use it in, or as long as we need it, because that's part of their deal, is they provide the support, and they'll be on site for us if we have any questions. The only other small cost is running one electrical line and a Cat 5 line, so it's an exciting opportunity, I think, for people in the community, and I think a lot of groups will use it, to be honest.
Okay. My second question was because I'm just not technical, can you explain how it works?
I can. So microphone qualities have been getting better and better all the time. So what this is it's 2 sound bars on either side of the room with a microphone inside of it. So we'll be able to pick up both sides. We could go, I think they said it was about a $3,000 difference to remove one sound bar, but that might not get the voices from the other side of the room. So I said that's not a good idea, but I'll let the board know about that. Then it has a large video display with a camera on it. So the camera would be only on one side, so we'll only see most of the room from that one side, but it'll be a visual camera. Everything will be in the table as far as plug in your device, and it'll boot everything up. It's a very large display, so you'll be able to see who's on the other side of it, or multiple faces. Probably similar to what we have here in the meeting room. And how does it work? Mostly magic, I think. I consider myself kind of a tech guy, but in the end, it's mostly magic. It's the little pixies in the wires that make it happen.
Okay.
Steve, can I ask the question? So I know the company, I know the product, I get all of that. It's a $25,000 cost. Have we compared this to anybody else's product and or bid?
I did talk to a couple others in the field, and we didn't get a second bid. We could get a second bid on the product. As long as there's another reputable company to do that, I'd definitely consider that.
And I only ask that because you're getting at that point where, and again, you're right, two different companies, two different products, you have to look at it, but we're getting in a high cost item.
Yeah.
There's multiple solutions and every vendor will tell you theirs is the best one. And this isn't a knock on this company.
Yeah.
We've done business at the district with them and others. It's just one of those things at that dollar amount. If somebody else can do the same exact thing for $5,000 less, we just don't know that at this point. And I'm not saying that somebody can, but I mean, if we're looking at two different products for a self-checkout, I would think we'd consider doing the same thing
Sure.
here potentially at that point in time.
Tim, are there other companies that you at the district have worked with that you would suggest we
Yeah, I mean,
look at?
there are different companies that you can work with besides them. Sometimes it's just an audio system. It really depends upon what you really are looking for. I don't know all of the specs in the sense of what this exact product line is. For me, it's more the dollar amount. And I had asked Steve a little bit about dollar amounts and different things because every public entity has different rules on when things have to go to bid and all of that. And this is one of those where it's that in between where it could make a difference, and in some cases it's a waste of your time. And so I mean, that's the only question I have, and maybe that's more of a future. If we look at other things over certain dollar amounts, we look at multiple bids.
Yeah. I'm okay with putting this one on pause too, if that's what the board wants to do. It's just I did investigate by asking others who are in the business. In fact, I asked John here and I said, does this seem like a reasonable bid or quote? And he said, yeah, that seems pretty good. And he gave me another product that they were just purchasing and said that this is what we're doing. And I said, well, then it's a pretty reasonable bid, but it's fine to look at other companies. So I'd take some names from Tim and make some calls and see what happens.
And I think honestly for me, I'm fine with this one. I think they're a good company and you'll get quality service from them. I think it's more maybe a larger piece as we talk about. We have some potential bigger things that could come up with the library. It may be something for us in the future, but based upon the pricing and everything else, it doesn't necessarily scare me in that sense for what they're putting on the table when you get into a screen that size and some of the other type of equipment. It's just going to be more the next person is going to give you a different product. It's not going to be the same exact product, so you're not apples to apples. It's which product, just like you guys are doing with your self-checkout, and you're going to find a big difference. So it's really hard to make that comparison, but that may be something going forward. In terms of use of it, we switched every one of our conference rooms over to that this year in some way, shape, or form. Some were much easier because we don't need all the sound and all of that. But I could see multiple people wanting to come in and use this space for meetings and so forth, because people are looking for that type of setup where they may not have that in their business or their personal life to connect with people. So I think it's very worthwhile to do in any way, shape, or form.
And his comment, let me just say, it leads into what Joseph had asked me to comment on this. Joseph's comment was, we should relook at our rental policy room for that room and stipulate in there that the cost of renting the room to use this feature would be more than what we charge such a minimal amount.
Sure.
That was my question.
Oh, okay, well,
So
you and
that's a good
Joseph are
idea.
on the
Yeah.
same wavelength.
Yep.
Tim, did the district go with the same company?
We didn't do ours switch out the same way. So our
Oh.
conference rooms are a little bit smaller, so we were able to install our own, in essence, our own web cameras. We have just a similar microphone or different microphones you can extend out, and it picks up because we don't have the length of the room. So one of the things you're looking at in that room is the length, that boardroom where we meet in, where ours just aren't that long.
Right.
Whereas our boardroom, which we've all met in before over there, we had a company who came in and did something similar. We just don't have the PTZ, the moving camera to track. We don't have that in there because our board meetings are run similar like they are here.
Yeah.
So we don't have that to that extent. But you're looking at a month or two delay in the sense if you go out and look for bids at this point in time. I mean, these people are busy I'm waiting just like Steve's waiting for things and everybody else. So I don't necessarily know that it's a problem in this case. I think it's something us as a board has to determine in the future if we believe there's a threshold where we expect to see multiple bids before they come to us. Steve and I talked, and the threshold's very different for the city. When it comes to bid, it's usually larger projects. It's construction, streets type of stuff. I'm looking at Brett, things that I see you guys approve at the council. That's just, that's just more things we have to be comfortable with as we move forward. So I'm fine with the project. It's more of the larger piece. And so.
Got it.
Okay. I think, is there any further discussion? Otherwise, I'll ask for a motion to approve the boardroom video conferencing project for a cost of up to 25,000 plus, what was that? The
Electrical.
plus the electric to allow the smart spaces to install the video. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Jesse? Would someone like to second the motion?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, and again, this money we're looking at would also come out of that fund balance from the prior year. So we would have much less coming into ours, but we're pretty well set. So that's where the money would come from. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to new business number C, Homegrown Foundation CD project. And this will be put on by Mr. Josh and, oh, he's leaving. He's leaving. I'd like to introduce Mike Christian's. Is it Christian's son or just Christian? Just Christian. I thought it was Mike Christian, who is one of the co-founders of the Homegrown Music Festival, which we've experienced here in West Bend for several years. So, Mike, we'll turn it over to you.
I'm going to leave some cards here on the table if anyone wants them at the end. And first and foremost, thank you all for allowing me to make a presentation here tonight. Thanks, Josh, for kind of co-sponsoring this effort, and for Deb for putting this on the agenda tonight. Steve, I haven't met you yet officially, but I hear that you're somewhat excited about this opportunity, and I have at least given it some thought, and you know, potentially have a way to make it work. So I guess first and foremost, after that, my name is Mike Christian, and it's the Hometown Foundation, Deb. That's the name of our organization, the Hometown Foundation. That's the umbrella organization that kind of has a mission of creating music and art opportunities in the community, the greater Washington County area. We work with other nonprofit organizations to curate events that are family-friendly and community-oriented to bring those things that we consider quality of life initiatives into the community. So first and foremost, our biggest event is the Homegrown Music Festival, and we've been doing that since 2015. The theory there is we give Wisconsin-based original musicians a stage to play on, and we get them in front of the community. We all know that being an original musician is quite a bit more difficult than making a living as a cover band musician, and the pay is much less, the opportunities are much less. So I've always appreciated the idea of my neighbor either being an artisan or a musician, or you know, all of our neighbors. We all know somebody like that who tries to do something on a local level. So we try to highlight them. And I dreamt up this concept a few years ago, and I had kind of roughly been working with Steve Baker, who was the director of the Kewaskum Library at the time. He's now in Sun Prairie. But the idea is, as you can see in front of you, kind of this board of local original musicians. I've got about 30 CDs to start with, but I can get hundreds of them. Every local band has a demo disc or a CD that they've scraped together enough money to get into a studio to get a little CD made. So I am of the idea that, and the theory that by putting this in the hands of especially your library patrons, we can really start generating the love for local original music. There are so many genres, from polka to heavy metal, that these bands kind of cover, and they just aren't, they don't get opportunities. So any opportunity I have to help publicize them or highlight them in any fashion, I take. This was created in my garage, so it wasn't ordered off, it's American made. And it can be duplicated, it can be changed, but the idea would be the same. I would like to not necessarily just highlight the music festival, but the musicians themselves. So along with this, I would also have, and I don't have it installed now, but at the top would be kind of a lineup card of all the CDs that are in here with a genre next to each one. So in theory, they would maybe be labeled 1 through 40, the name of the band and the genre or style, and maybe a website that people could go to find out more about them. I don't know the logistics of it though, and how you would tag them or how you would track them. At the end of the day, this is, in my mind, a donation. So if they were lost or stolen or anything like that, there would be no, repercussions in my mind. There would be no, oh my gosh, we lost that, that Thin the Veil CD from the display. That's not the idea. So I want to make it as easy as possible. I try not to take up a lot of room. So, I'm conscious of your space limitations. But I guess I'm looking for feedback. And if this is a concept that fits into the goals and the mission of the local library, would this work, or is there a different approach that I should take and go back to the drawing board and come back with a different design, a different theory, any of that, I guess?
Well, this is exciting. Libraries have always supported content, and actually it does really go back to my Made in America. We should support our neighbors first. If all things being equal, we should buy from our neighbors, and this is a similar vein of homegrown music and homegrown art. Is that same concept that we need to support our local people first, and the best that we can. So it's always a philosophy. I shouldn't say it's always a philosophy I had, but at least for the last 7 years or so, I've always said, let's look local first for our whatever we can for the library and even my home. Then we go further out if we need to. So one of the things libraries are doing as they move forward is becoming content places where people can produce content and collect local content, whether it be books, music, art, whatever the case might be. So I see this as being a growing section of our library to represent West Bend in a state that has so much talent to begin with. And I have internationally known friends who are artists that live in Wisconsin that I've made through being in library business with them. One that I think of that all the time is John Woes, who does stained glass now, but he's a talented artist with brittle bone syndrome, and he put on a display at our library in Kimberly Littleshoot, and then also worked with our community to build a community art project that's also on display there. So these are people that are willing to give, and Wisconsin, I've learned, is just full of such talent, and everywhere you look, there's great people that are willing to do these things. And what better way to scaffold other artists than to support them in your library and your community? So That's what I love about this, and I think it's a good start, but I think it can get much bigger, and we will make the room for locally created media in our library.
And Steve and I did talk, and he said to put like the barcoding on, that's not a big deal.
Right.
We had someone would have volunteered to pay for the barcoding, and he said, no, it isn't that much of an expense. So basically, this is a Steve decision, but we wanted Mike to come and show us, so we then, the board, can actually try and start selling. When you talk to people, you can, your musician friends, if you have a CD, you're local, you can, so it's one of those things. I really don't think we need to vote on this. If the board feels we should vote on doing this, I think it's just something that Steve can go forward with, but I think it was a very nice presentation to share this with the board. So I'm very supportive of this too. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Mike, thank you so much for coming. I went to the festival last year.
2 years ago.
Oh, was it 2? Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot that last year, everything was canceled. You're right. Oh my gosh. It was so much fun. And this is really exciting for me. I think that your idea of having, some sort of a display with the bands underneath each genre, and then maybe some backup information on your website or whatever would be great. I would love to see it get bigger than what it was 2 years ago. And I think that's really, really cool. I love this idea.
So I'll step in. First of all, you're all invited July 11th, Sunday, to Homegrown Music Festival at Rigner Park.
Nice.
We are very excited about the lineup and making a lot of fun additions to the festival. So it'll be better than what it was when you were there 2 years ago.
Yeah.
As Mike stated, and I think now is a good time as I need to jump in, but Homegrown Music Festival is part of the umbrella of Hometown Foundation. And with that, when Mike started Homegrown 5 years ago, it has grown exponentially every year. And it's going to get even bigger this year than ever before with the addition of the Regner Rocks Summer Music Series at Regner Park on Thursday nights. So if you haven't heard about that yet, you will be hearing about it more and more. And a lot of what the Hometown Foundation does is giving back to the community as a nonprofit themselves, but all of their events are facilitated by teaming up with community partners and other nonprofit organizations to really bring the community together, and recognizing that there's a lot of great organizations, and in working together you can achieve more. So we are looking to continue to team up, and the library is a great organization to team up with. So we'd kind of also had the idea to kind of piggyback off of this. And I spoke with Deb and Steve about how we can associate the library with the Thursday nights in the park. And the thought was to have different community organizations, couple per event, set up information tables and do different things to engage. So it's not like you're going to be walking through county fair where there's all these organizations lined up in a row, but 1 to 2 organizations per week. And I had kind of thought that maybe it'd be something where the library could showcase their summer reading program and possibly even have the ability for families or kids to sign up on site while they're enjoying the music. So that's something else, that possibility. But we're also open, I know Mike is, to other ideas that the library has, the Friends have, the board has, on how we can really continue to build the relationship and the partnership. So.
And do you have, when you talk about the art, would it be similar to we've had art, what are they called? In-residence artists here at the library a couple times where they can do their art in front of people, and then we displayed the art here at the library, or not here, but at the library. Would it be like that, or are you talking more of the Chalk Fest where there's different booths with people showcasing their art?
So far, we've been mostly focused and dedicated to the music side of things. So the art is something that we're slowly but surely working into. We have had some chalk artists at our event, but but I in no means want to be a chalk art festival. I think that we have a wonderful organization that is very capable of handling that sort of thing, and led it to the pros in that situation. But we have had some plein air artists at our events. That's folks who do some just on the spot artwork and drawing of the scene that they have in front of them. We have talked about doing different communal art projects, possibly big boards, and people can come up and either graffiti it or add a little something to it, or different, add a line sort of writing composition things where people will start with a verse, maybe some poetry, and then you see the last line of the person ahead of you, and then you go from there and write the next 4 lines or whatever. So, there's a ton of different concepts and thoughts out there. With the volunteer kind of, I want to say, folks that help me organize the committee and everything, we don't have that professionalism we don't have art as a feather in our cap. We've got music, we've got community relations, we've got vendor relations, but I would really love to have somebody who would be interested in taking that portion of it and really growing that aspect of it for all of our events. But art is totally one of the things that I think go hand in hand with music in any way. Writing, art, literature, music, all are those sort of key things that true artisans are all about. So I don't think I want to get into an art fair sort of thing, but some live art and some opportunities would be awesome.
Do you have anybody that plays like classical music that could maybe come and play live when we do yoga outside the library?
I have actually a really great connection with the Kettle Moraine Symphony, and I've been actually trying to figure out other opportunities for them to, not necessarily bring all 40 people to an event, but we actually, for the Mother's Day event recently downtown West Bend, what we did was we created 4 different smaller symphony groups. So there was 3 or 4 piece groups together, and there was a wind instrument thing, a stringed instrument group. So the Kettle Moraine Symphony is really interested in figuring out ways to reach out to the community in non-traditional ways, I guess. So absolutely, anything's on the table and everything's a possibility.
I have a question. Yeah, like your display, it's smaller. And Steve, you said you get hundreds of CDs from local groups, right? Have you thought about reaching out, not my company, but different manufacturers in the city of West Bend who can make something that will work with the library, that give you all your information, that you can house 100 CDs? Like, I don't want to name certain ones, but there's quite a few in the South Industrial Park and over in the North Industrial Park who might be able to, for the publicity.
I think there's some really great opportunities to have a professionally made display, signage, all of that within this community very easily. Absolutely.
I think that's a great idea, but I think, I think I would like to start maybe as soon as possible.
I think this is a great start right here.
It's a good start, yeah. I just think in future, you want to build this.
I agree.
So start now, and then a year from now, think of something that's going to be bigger and better and fit in the library.
And that's the goal with everything that the hometown does, and most groups is, you got to start somewhere, and the goal is continue to build and grow.
Steve, when do you think you would have, the CDs you have up there, Mike, are those the ones, or will there be more?
I've been trying to collect them for the past month or so I'm slowly but surely getting some in the mail. And if we started with these 25 or 30 or whatever ones you decided that you wanted to start with, I think that's great. We can always add them as they come if it's not a real significant process to get them tagged and put into the system.
I was going to ask you, how long do you think it would take to get this set up? And I'm just thinking, when does your Thursday start?
June 3rd.
Would it be possible to have them tagged by June 3rd, so then it would be a rollout on the same, it would be at that time?
Yeah, there's a couple options, and I'm not super familiar with what we've done in West Bend with Polaris, because that's a different system than what I'm used to, but I believe it does have an on-the-fly kind of option that we can put a short record in until we get a full record for the material. So we could probably be, within a couple days, we could have this turned around.
And I don't want to push, I'm just thinking, I think it would be great when we're ready to go to have a big rollout, and the library could put it on the website saying this, and if it would be on a night when you've got your Thursday night concert or something, to pair with that.
Yeah. So it'd be easily done by June 3rd.
Okay. And really, the Ragnarok series is a new event for us this year and on Thursdays, but the Homegrown Festival itself does happen in July. So if we were more likely to say, well, let's put a big publicity, effort together for the Homegrown Festival itself rather than this Ragnaroks thing, I think that would be more than wonderful as well.
And you can work that out with Mike,
Sure.
and stuff like that.
Potentially, there would be, we can consider some media options, press releases and things like that as well, and potentially maybe the city would be interested in helping us publicize it as well.
Steve is the new Hannah on the radio station.
Really?
So he can announce that.
I will mention it tomorrow.
Not tomorrow, but it's one of those things.
Okay,
when
I'll
it
hold
comes-
off then.
Yeah.
I can tell you Hannah was a big fan of Homegrown as well. And
Yes.
I did hear that Hannah's no longer with the
Yeah,
library.
Hannah moved to North Shore, and she's now the head of youth services there.
Good.
So,
Well, congratulations to Hannah. I always enjoyed working with her in the past as well.
She is staying in West Bend, though, so
Okay.
you'll probably see her at the concerts.
Cool.
Are there any other questions for Mike or Josh? Okay. Do you have any questions for us?
I guess I just would, and we can talk outside this meeting as well, Steve. Maybe I'll stop in one day
Sure.
and see you, and we can figure out when, how, and what, and go from there.
sounds good.
Great. Well, I really appreciate it, everybody, and look forward to a great summer. And like you said, Steve, I think this is and Karen as well, this is a good start, but I completely envision this could be a really impactful thing in the community, and I'm excited to get it launched.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. There he goes. What? You do, so you're gonna see.
I had two of them.
All right.
We're putting one out this summer. It's nice.
Good. Well, moving on to a lighter subject, fines. Steve, you want to cover what you're saying regarding fines?
Yeah, I'm looking to go standard across the board of 25 cents instead of having the difference. This was brought to me by Emily, and I said, we can certainly do that. She asked how soon are we going to go fine free, and I said, that's not something I want to tackle right now because it's the start of budget season, and
Yeah.
I don't know what the other libraries are doing yet. I'll learn more on Thursday probably as far as fine free goes, but a standard fine across the board is just simpler for people, just to say it's 25 cents a day for overdue items.
And the rationale is just that it's the ease. So
It's
we were
the
charging
ease.
a little more for CDs. What,
For
do you know how
DV
many?
For DVDs and kits, and I think when we started charging more for DVDs, I should have wrote this out for you. When libraries started charging more for DVDs were rare. We didn't have a big collection, so we wanted to make sure they came back right away, and
Okay.
we thought that punishment of $1 a day, or I know there was some that were a lot more than $1 a day, would make things come back faster. We now have a very large DVD collection, and they're still circulating in West Bend, so that's good. But all the other models out there, and I also look at other business models, they don't charge at Netflix is now streaming mostly, but I think you can still get their CDs by mail or DVDs by mail. They don't charge for overdue fees, and it's kind of a fad that's going away, and we'll probably talk about fine free at some point in the future, but for now I just wanted to make it all standard. So
Anyone have any questions? I don't know if we have to vote on that.
I don't know if you have in the past, and that's why I wanted to bring it to the board to talk about, because if you,
I actually think we did, to be honest.
Yeah. So one question I have, Steve, do we even know how these compare to surrounding libraries?
well, it's all over the board.
Okay.
With, Germantown has all fine-free for youth materials right now. Other libraries around us are going fine-free, so, that's that topic for later down the road. So different items, most places are standard across the board. I know that in my experience in other systems, we try to keep a standard, and we try to keep a standard throughout the library system, which is impossible because each board controls their own choice on this. So
I can't imagine it would make that much of an impact as to what you collect, but do you have any idea of,
no, I don't know off the top of my head how much that would be. I think a large portion, about 50% of our revenues for fines and fees is typically, and I don't know for sure in West Bend, I haven't done the deep dig in that. Typically 50% of that is lost or damaged materials.
Sure.
And for fines and fees, I don't know the delineation between, fines are books coming back late, fees are if you lose the book. We average about 30,000 a year in fines and fees. It's not a little dollar amount.
Right.
But I think the majority of that is
Probably the
because of the
fees.
fees with the
And that's not
books.
changing. I mean,
No,
we're
that's
just
not
basically
changing.
taking the DVDs and the kits, they're gonna be at 25 cents a day instead of $1 a day. So
Right.
that alone is a small piece of that pie. I can't imagine it's gonna impact that much.
Yeah, and it'll be especially hard to compare year to year because of what happened in the last year with the pandemic. So,
And I think the standardization across all media would make it easier for the librarians.
yeah.
Or, so-
That's why I brought it to you, because Emily said, hey, have you thought about this? And I said, okay, we'll talk about that. But, so it's an ease for her. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. But I want to support her and in that way. And yeah.
Would anyone like to make a motion to?
I will. I'll move to set all fines to 25 cents a day.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Tim's getting tired. He's making motions. Number E, future library board meetings. The reason this is on is we've been meeting here, but now with the COVID opening up or things opening up, we wanted to ask if the board would mind going back to the library. Does anyone have any issues with that? No? Joanne?
I don't have an issue with that.
No, I don't have an issue either, actually. Well, that's why I was late today, because I went to the library. So I'm in favor of going.
Okay.
It's okay, Joanne.
Okay, we don't have to vote on this, but in the future, we will be going back to the BI room. Unless they're going to be having construction, getting the video equipment, then we'll have to move to another room, but.
We'll make sure they don't affect our board meeting.
Number F, trustee education. I will try and get through this rather quickly because we're running a little later than we have been in the past. First of all, I wanted to talk about Chapter 43. Did everybody have a chance to look at what I had asked? Okay. Basically, why I had chosen what I did for you to read is I wanted the board to really realize how much power a library board has. Basically, if you go to what I had said, the League of Municipalities, in there, the only two statements or two things that the city has control of, and I mean, they're major things, but it is approval of the board members, and the second one is the city actually gives us a portion of the tax levy, so they give us the dollars. But based on Chapter 43 and what we have in the power here, we can spend that money any way we want in the library, of course, or for the library. So, but what it's saying is you on this board have an awful lot of power, and there's an awful lot riding on your being here. You control something, and we really are the final control, or the main control. So I just wanted people to take a look at that and really look at it. Does anyone have any questions on any of that?
I made a couple notes when we got down to 43.6 county appointments to the municipal.
Oh.
When you read, I know the county's looking at putting people on, so I'm just a little confused on how they can decide how many people they want to put on the board.
Well, technically, because of what they fund us, they
Yeah.
could put a lot on the
That's
board.
what-
But right now, in talking with the county, that's kind of moved a little lower on their priority. The county has other issues they're dealing with. I think eventually, they may come back to us and say they'd like to add one or two.
Okay.
But one of the things I do want to let you know, and Steve, you're involved in this, either it's DPI, and the librarians in Washington County are looking at the size of library boards. And based on the analysis of what it reads in chapter 43, they're stating that a library of our size really should have about 2 more people on the board, believe it or not. Sometimes I think more people is going to make it harder to deal with. But, I can understand. A library our size should actually be in Hartford. And right now, I think Hartford only has 7 people on their board. So there is some looking at that where they're trying to get everything the way it should.
Yeah, I
So-
think you meant the size of our board is the size that Hartford would have, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
this size, 9 people is what Hartford, which is a smaller library, should have. We should have possibly about 11. And if the county wanted to be one of those, that's fine too.
Yeah, and the county chooses or has an opportunity to have board members based on their contribution
So they actually could have a lot.
comparative to the municipalities. So yeah, they have an opportunity to add quite a few.
But with, the county has a lot of other committees theirs on, and I don't think they could give us 4 people
Yeah.
or anything,
And library boards are volunteer boards. They're not compensated as some other boards are.
Boards are, yes.
Sorry, Brett.
Oh, no, yes. Are there any questions on that? Otherwise, I'll quickly move through the financial piece. And basically, did you make a copy of the thing Carrie had? You didn't hand
Yep.
that out?
Oh, did I not hand it out?
Yeah.
I have it here. That's why.
Okay. Steve and I met with Carrie, the finance administrator, and Jay, the city administrator, because I wanted to, I've got mine. We wanted to go over an explanation of like the audit, and this is the actual report that Carrie provided us with when the audit was done. And one of the things that Jay wanted me to explain to the board, at one point, and quite a few of us have been members for a while, when the prior city administrator had been on, he kept referring to us as an enterprise. The library is not an enterprise. An enterprise is actually categorized as a department that can raise revenue, like the water department, where they can increase fees. We cannot do that. We actually are considered a special revenue funds government group. And we actually, here is the comprehensive annual financial report. You can go online. But in there, the library is actually listed under the balance of a non-major government fund, special revenue fund. So we are categorized a little different than the normal city departments like the finance department or human resources. And the reason for that is because of state statute 43, the funds, and I'm going to start coughing. The funds that we have at the end of the year we retain control of. So in December, if Human Resources has money left over in their budget, it goes back to the city general fund. Ours does not, per state statute. So, so we definitely are not an enterprise, and we should not use that term. So it was a misterm that the prior administration had done. Okay, you might have to do this,
I might have to do
but
this, yeah.
basically, we're going to just look at one piece of this. We'll look at the category that says General Library Fund 21. And what that is, if you're looking at this in 2020, this is for last year, the audit results. Here's the 44,000 from last year that was carried over and we didn't deal with. So, so that's a line. Steve, I'm going to let you talk for a couple of minutes, if that's okay.
Sure. So, yeah, the 44,554 was rolled over, and that was the tradition in some regards, unless we designated it into one of these other restricted accounts. It's not a terrible thing to have a little rollover, but you can put it in different accounts to designate where it's going to go, and that's a good practice financially, I think. Our revenues, now I get confused on parentheses sometimes in governmental accounting, because sometimes they mean one thing and sometimes the other, but then you can see where our revenues and expenses resulted in that additional, right, of 14,000?
What it's saying is we had revenues of 818,000, and we had expenditures of 804,258. So the difference being the 14,000 was a net income. So in addition to the 44,000 that was carried over from 2019, the difference between the revenue and expenses that the audit came up with was this dollar amount of 14,000. So then you go down, and the 53,687, that's our capital, which the county had given to us.
Yep.
And this one is listed as a carry forward, and the reason it was carried forward was basically for accounting reasons. We do eventually move that into our capital fund, but for Carrie to move it, she needs to move it as a carryover, and then at the end of the year, when it's audited, she can then move it into the capital fund. And that's the reference she has on the bottom, saying after the end of the year, they performed a reclassification of the 107,000 into the capital offset. Reason it's 107,374 is they hadn't done that with the, that included both the 2019 and the 2020 capital payment that the city gave us.
Right.
It gets a little confusing, and I know, if you have questions, you can ask, or you can call me later, or you can call Steve. So that was the capital. The 3,000, and again, the General Library Fund 21 is only city dollars. It doesn't include both county or outreach. It's only taxes from city taxpayers. The 3,000 was money we had moved out of our IT fund for computers that we had approved last year. And the $31,051, that was moved out of the emergency fund. And I think that part of that was for the sprinklers, or the most of that was for we had some sprinkler issues last year, major issues that they came in. So that money was paid out of our emergency fund. And then you come down to the library basement project, and we had 40,000 in there. So if you take the bracket and you subtract it from the non-bracket in that, it comes out to $59,841. So you're not looking at the 14,000. We're only looking at the money, the $4 amounts. Is it the 4? I'm gonna check. No, it'll be the, I gotta calculate that out. 5, 9 minus 3. No, it's just the 4 figures that are in that middle section, and that comes out to the 59,841. 841. So you add up the three things, the beginning fund balance, the subtotal of the expenses and revenue, and the subtotal of the emergency funds and balance, and that comes to 118,000. Included in that money was the 107 that had to be moved. So it left us a balance of the $11,471. That will be reclassified, and that would be posted into our fund balance, which we would then control. That is part of the money that I had stated was from the 2020 budget that we now have control of, but would be added to the additional monies that was still listed in our Fund 21 as a rollover. And this is a little confusing because I'm not sure why everything didn't get caught in the audit, but this has to do with how the bills are coming through and paid. So the money that was left in that account, the 65,000, just rolled right into 2021. So in Steve's General Fund 21 for January, actually that should have just been the $740,000 that the city taxpayers paid in. But there was a residual of an additional 65. So it came out as 804,000, I think.
Right.
That was carried over. This is confusing, but I just wanted to try and let the board get a feel because Chapter 43 says one of our main things is the budget. So take a look at this. I know you're going to have questions. Feel free to give me a call. Carrie would have been here today to explain this, but she's working on audit stuff still. There's some audit things and stuff like that, so it's probably better that her time is used at that.
Well, and the important thing is there's always going to be the role, well, I shouldn't say always, you know, if we don't expend our monies, that money's going to be in our January financial report, February financial report, all the way up until we do something with it.
And it still is out
redesignate
there
it.
in this current. So if you look at the financial report that we got for today, the Joseph report, I just had it. Now use yours, please. We are sitting with $574,780 in the cash investment. That actually includes $65,000 from the year 2020 that we, this board, have now authorized some of it to be spent on the two projects. But there will be money left over that we eventually will move into our fund balance, or Jesse, as you had said, take that money and maybe take 10,000 and say, let's buy materials.
Sure.
What is left? Okay. The thing on that is.
Future motion?
Future motion. So then that would. Buy those DVDs? No. So I know it's kind of a lot to throw at you right now. Take a look at this report, see if you kind of understand it. Finances are not always the easiest. Brackets are, you know, you talk to Carrie and it's like second nature. And Steve and I are going, now wait, you got to think backwards because a bracket means it's a credit and it's like, and she's just whipping it out. Well, that's the way it always is. And it's like, you know, when you deal with stuff like that, yeah, she's a money person.
She's really good at what she does.
That's why she did it.
But I don't understand sometimes. But we come to terms usually after we talk about it long enough. It takes me
Yeah.
a long time to understand governmental accounting.
So I'm not going to assign any homework for the next time, but hopefully I'll have something more to talk about, or maybe we'll even just talk about the finances if you have some issues and questions. But I will, next time, maybe Steve will have somebody talk about a book, how it circulates.
Sure.
But another one might be a good one, though, is outreach. We might have a good discussion on outreach, because that's another one that's not that easy to understand.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions? You all bored to tears?
If anything comes up, you can always call.
No, we haven't. I know, this is a longer one, but our next regular meeting will be June 15th. I don't think we have any assigned tasks, but I
I didn't catch anything.
I didn't either. Wow. You went a longer meeting, but you have no homework. On that happy note, we are adjourned, 7:55.
I usually get him at 7:30.
Usually get home.